For January 18th, I believe it is. 19th. May we have roll call?
Councilmember Dotson.
Here.
Okerberg.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Burbank.
Here.
Rainey.
Here.
Svenby.
Here.
Abraham.
Here.
Mayor Kunz.
Here.
We have all 7 of the council and the mayor present.
Thank you. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone here tonight in this beautiful cold night, but we will move on with the next item is approval of the agenda. I don't know if we have any additions or changes to it, so look for a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion by Brent Svenby to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Nate Dotson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This has been approved. Now moving on, we don't have anything for the mayor tonight, so we will move on to a financial report, and I'll ask Councilman Greg Schultz to read the financial report.
Okay, we have some items from 2015 and then some for 2016. 2015 recap of expenditures presented for approval tonight are as follows. Checks over $20,000 are $38,391 to Consolidated Communications to replace the networking infrastructure. $44,862 to Moelis Construction for the roof reconstruction at 224 North Cedar. $26,060 to the Olmsted County HRA for July through December bridges. $45,455 to the Steele County Auditor, which is the fourth quarter LEC costs. $115,601 to Tollmaster for snow plow and ice control equipment, and other expenditures of $251,400, making total expenditures presented for approval tonight for the end of year 2015 of $521,770.79. For 2016, checks over $20,000 are as follows. $28,865 to Harris Enterprises, which is the annual software and license and maintenance agreement. $35,316 to Owatonna Ford for a 2016 Ford F-550. Other expenditures of $123,523 for a subtotal of $187,705. Add to that the January Section 8 payments of $59,234. Makes total expenditures presented for approval tonight for 2016 of $246,939.96.
Thank you, Greg. You've all heard the report. Is there any questions or corrections?
Motion to pay the bills.
We have a motion by Kevin Rainey to pay the bills. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Nate Dotson. Any further discussion there? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This has been approved. Moving on to the consent agenda items, which are minutes of meetings, license permit requests, etc., department reports, and miscellaneous items grouped into one motion. What is the council's wishes?
Motion to approve consent agenda tonight.
We have a motion by Dave Burbank to approve the consent agenda items. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Second by Brent Svenby. Any further discussion there? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? These have been approved. Moving on down to action items 3.2.1, first reading of proposed ordinance 1-16 to vacate a portion of Mineral Springs Parkway, and this will go to Kyle.
Actually, I will take
Oh,
this.
Troy.
Peggy Dahlen is requesting vacation of portion of Mineral Springs Parkway in front of 1415 Mineral Springs Parkway. All the portions of the right-of-way east of the center line of the road is proposed to be vacated. The applicant is requesting vacation this portion in order to clean up and straighten out the right-of-way line. There's currently 49.5 feet of right-of-way on this side of the road from the center line. The applicant is proposing to plat the property and would dedicate 33 feet of right-of-way as well as a 10-foot easement to replace the vacated portion. And we've actually had 49 feet of right-of-way all along Mineral Springs Parkway from Mineral Springs Road down to the park. And as property's been platted, we've been dedicating 40 feet And that was in anticipation for a trail to be put in along there and not knowing the width of the road. Well, since that road has been constructed now, and we went with a more narrow road, and we have the trail in place now. Only 33 feet is really needed for the right-of-way, and we like to only take as much as we need, and the rest go back to the adjacent property owners. And in no way would this affect the existing street or utilities in the area. The trail is all within that. In fact, we have some green space beyond the trail within the right-of-way. We did have a public hearing on this at the Planning Commission meeting, and they did recommend approval of this vacation. We should add a condition that the vacation is not recorded until, or at the time of the plat being recorded. Since we're vacating the entire right-of-way and it's being rededicated at the plat, those should happen at the same time and not one happen before the other. So that should be a condition placed on the approval as well. So staff would recommend approval as recommended by the Planning Commission, and adding that condition that the vacation not be recorded until the plat is recorded.
Thank you, Troy. Questions from the council? What is the council's wishes?
Motion to approve with additional comment.
We have a motion by Greg Schultz to approve this request with that addition of a statement. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Second by Brent Svenby. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this being an ordinance, ask for roll call.
Councilmember Dodson.
Aye.
Okaberg.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Burbank.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Svenby.
Aye.
Abraham.
Aye.
All 7 ayes.
This has been approved, and the second reading will be at our next council meeting. Troy?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Moving down to resolutions, Resolution 3.3.1, Resolution 716, preliminary plat approval of the Thamert addition, and we'll back to Troy.
So this is the proposed plat of that same property. The property is owned R1 single family. Currently, there's a single family residence and several outbuildings on the property. It consists of 4.14 acres, and the proposal is to plat it into 3 residential lots with an outlot. The properties are currently, the one property is currently served by a pressurized line for sanitary sewer that comes from the park. So it actually runs through a private easement behind the house. The other 2 lots then would be serviced by the same line and with a private easement. There is pending assessments of $20,602 on the property, and that's due to the curb and gutter and street improvements that were done last year. Those would be assessed prior to the end of 2016. There is some floodplain at the bottom of the property on the back side that is in the floodplain, and there would be standard easements of 10 foot usually along the property lines and the right-of-way that would be included in this plat. We are recommending preliminary plat approval. We are talking with the owners about that outlot. There's a possibility that that could be donated for parkland or traded for some of the assessments, and so we are working with the property owners on that, and so there might be some adjustments to that outlot A. And so we're recommending approval of the preliminary plat, and we hope to have some of those other details figured out and decided on to present in the final plat approval. So staff would recommend approval of the preliminary plat of Thamert Edition.
Thank you, Troy. Any questions from the council? What is the council's wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Kevin Rainey to approve. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Second by Jeff Okaberg. Any further discussion there? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This has been approved. Moving down to 3.3.2, Resolution 8-15 is a Bridge Street Sanitary Lift Station modification. And this will go to Kyle.
Good evening. As part of our capital improvement plan, we have scheduled for work on the Bridge Street lift station. This is a lift station that's located almost directly in front of the car wash out at Fleet Farm. The pumps are over 10 years old. They're obsolete, and we cannot get some critical parts for them anymore. We're currently estimating the cost of the project at about $1.1 million. We proposed bid date of March 9th and approval of bids by council on March 15th. Because it's over $100,000, we're asking for your approval to proceed.
Thank you, Kyle. Any further questions from the council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Nate Dotson to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll go with Greg Schultz as a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This has been approved. Thank you, Kyle. Moving down to Resolution 3.3.3, Resolution 916, Phase 2, Southeast Stormwater Project Approval Plan. And back to Kyle.
This is the, again, a project exceeding $100,000 in value and currently estimated at about $2.6 million to construct a larger storm sewer from the Highway 14 right-of-way across an easement to Cedardale, along Cedardale to 4th Avenue, and then 4th Avenue up to 18th Street Southeast. This is the second phase of a project. The project was identified in the 2007 study that identified localized flooding locations around town. It will be paid for partially from the stormwater utility and partially through the general fund, and we recommend approval.
Thank you, Kyle. This completion of this project would basically finish that part of the city?
Yes. It would be the seventh, it would be 7 out of 8, so we would be, of the 8 projects identified in that 2007 study, this would complete the 7th one.
Okay, but this will complete that project in that area?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Kevin?
Question I've got, Kyle. There is also flooding on the roadway immediately to the west of the Federated, the annexed ed building. Does this address those needs as well?
It does not. That's County Road 45. There is some localized flooding between Federated and the old wholesale tire. We have requested that Steele County evaluate that entire corridor, and we would request that they would evaluate it, that localized flooding at that time, as they address the County 45 corridor.
So it doesn't fix all the problems in the south part of town, but it fixed most of them, and we still have a few to go.
Yeah, cars were flooded in that area that you mentioned during the 2014 event.
Yep. Any other questions? What is the council's wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Kevin Rainey to approve. Do you have a second to that?
Second.
Second by Nate Dotson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This has been approved. Moving down to 3.4.1, Elevation North Church request for compliance expansion, and this will go to Troy.
Elevation North Church received a conditional use permit to locate a church at their current location at 2002 Austin Road on August 19, 2014. The City Council agreed to an amendment on July 15th of last year to meet some conditions by December 31st, one of which was to meet building code requirements, and the other was to submit a $5,000 escrow, and that was to ensure that the parking lot would be done in a 2-year period. Prior to December 31st, we got a letter from Pastor Doug Jones of Elevation North Church requesting some modifications to those conditions. Part of that was some building code requirements. The other was the $5,000 escrow. The church had set up a account, actually the pastor had set up an account, a personal account for withdrawal of the $5,000. The state auditor does not allow us to accept $5,000 deposit in that form. It would either have to be in the form of cash, check, or performance bond or a revocable letter of credit is the only ways we can accept the $5,000. I don't believe that was known at the time, and so there was a request for some modifications to those conditions. The Planning Commission did hear those requests and did recommend that all the conditions be met as it was originally approved, but did extend the timeline to April 1st of this year for those conditions to be met. And so staff would recommend compliance of all the outstanding items to be done by April 1st of 2016, as was stated in the original amendment of the conditional use permit.
I think Pastor Tier, you would like to speak on this?
I'm Pastor Doug Jones. I'm pastor of the church. Just a couple of things to clarify something. First of all, we had asked Ken and Greg both to come down to the building before we purchased it and to list out all the things that needed to be done, and we would follow through. The problem has been is that there's been things added and added and added and added to which we're at the point now that we've spent $100,000 in the remodel. If we knew it was going to cost this much, we wouldn't have purchased the building in the first place. It was not our intention not to have everything done. There's 3 issues that are left. We were never told until I got the letter just after Christmas that I couldn't personally guarantee the $5,000. We figured that was going to be to suffice it. We had to raise $7,500 of outstanding bills on the previous construction, and we finished that up on the last Sunday, and I was able to pay the last bill on December 31st. That's how tight we were. The second issue was one of the handicap, the ladies' room. We didn't have, the panel was sent in wrong. It isn't the right one. We've reordered it. It's on back order, which they understood, and it's not really an issue. It's just a matter when the panel gets there, we put it in, it's done. The third issue is the air exchange, and I thought that was already taken care of with Sam from Wenzel Plumbing and with Ken. I thought that agreement was finally all laid to rest. It was our understanding by the original engineer, and I do not know who that was, it was through Wenzel Plumbing, that when we put in the air exchange, it can go either way. It can go to the sanctuary or it can go to the fellowship hall. When we originally started, we were only asked to have an air exchanger to the fellowship area, and then it was later added on, no, you got to do this too. So at this point, we had a little bit of difficulty getting an engineer. One from Rochester won't even come into Steele County, and we haven't heard from a couple, but I did talk with one today. He's going to come and look at it, and I think really what the zoning is looking for is a mechanical engineer to stamp his approval that what we've done is okay. If it isn't, if we have to put in another air exchanger, we will vacate the building before April 1st. We cannot afford another $6,000-$7,000 to put another air exchanger in. It's just impossible. We're stretched to the limit. In fact, in order to raise the $7,500 that we needed to pay, I've gone without salary for 2 months. And so that's where it sets. I'm not going to do anything about the $5,000 until I find out if we got to have an air exchange, because I think it's worthless to try to get $5,000 credit limit at the bank, which it sounds like. I just had a preliminary. We bank at Premier. They're willing to set up a $5,000 irrevocable line of credit there for the zoning to have, but we're not going to finish that till we find out what's going to happen with the air exchange. We're just to the point after $100,000 and everything that we put in and the money that the congregation has had to raise, we have reached our limit. We can't do anymore, and so that's where we're at. As soon as if we get the engineer in next week, and he says, well, what I recommend, it has to be another air exchanger put in, then you will get a letter from us noting that we will vacate the building and put it up for sale by April 1st.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the council?
Is there any ambiguity in the code that the air exchanger just the requirements for that?
Well, I will say that the list of things to be done, Ken did go through it back in December 12th of 2014 and put the list of things that would need to be done for a building permit. And so this is the list we've been working on since then. The air exchanger, from what I understand, is one side. The air exchanger was put in on one side. The other side was not part of that review. And if there's an engineer that reviews it and says, yep, that's adequate for both sides, essentially that would solve the problem. The thought from the building inspection department is that is probably not sufficient enough, and they just need an engineer or mechanical engineer to review that and see what would be needed for the other half of the building.
So basically, the recommendation at this point is to extend it until April 1st.
That is what the planning commission recommended.
Dave? Kevin?
Yeah, and looking at Mr. Krushke's letter that he sent out January 4th, if you look at section, or the first notes that he's got, you know, the mechanical ventilation requirements are a Minnesota mechanical code minimum requirement that is to be followed for each occupancy. The city is responsible for enforcing these codes as adopted by the state of Minnesota. Then further down it says the city council does not have the authority to waive this item. I'm not going to throw our city staff under the bus when they are simply following what the state says is minimal requirements. And I just want that to be perfectly clear that our inspectors are doing what the state says they have to do. Thank you.
And if I might just address that, we're not here to fight the code. Our argument is, why wasn't this told to us in the front end? That's our argument. When we were going to put the sanctuary in the back, that's where it said we had to have that ventilation, was in the back where the sanctuary. However, in the construction, we decided that it was going to be be easier to put the sanctuary on the other side, and that's where everything came in. We were never, it was never part of that plan that we were supposed to do both sides.
The building inspectors are to review plans to make sure they meet building code. They are not to design mechanical or any other systems for a building. And so your mechanical engineer or an architect is to provide those drawings so that our guys can review those and make sure they meet code. Once we cross into designing, then we assume a liability that we do not need to be doing.
Okay. Great.
But yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was just curious why, when the plan changed, the contractor didn't review it again. I guess that's my question.
We sent it into the city, and
well, that's not the.
And nobody said a word. That's all I'm saying. And we're not. We can't be blessed as a church if we're breaking the law. It's just that we wish you don't get into a construction of something until you count the cost. And we're at $30,000, $40,000 over what we originally thought the estimate of everything was going to be.
Well, I would say the recommendation is that we give them until April 1st. And at this point, if nothing happens until then, that is the end. We have to just put our foot down on some date and time.
And we understand that. We thought what had already been transpired outside of the addition to the bathroom, we weren't.
I guess from my standpoint, Doug, is that when you were made aware of this, you should have come to the city and asked for something other than waiting till the last minute and then saying, hey, we didn't know.
We thought that the discussion that Sam and Ken had back in October, that it was taken care of. We did not know it wasn't.
Okay, but who's the general contractor on this project?
We did it ourselves. It was
Okay,
all
but then you should have known. You should have known.
We relied on the contractor that did the work.
Okay. So, what is the council's wishes at this point?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve with the recommendation to deadline of April 1st. Motion by Nate Dodson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave Burbank. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This has been approved. You have until April 1st at this
That's
point.
fine. We'll know within the next week or two from
Okay. Thank you.
the engineer, and if it's another one, we will send you an official letter of our date of meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment, and if anyone in the audience wishes to speak on any item not on the agenda, we ask you to come to the microphone and sign in. Seeing none, we will move on to council comment, and I will start with Nate.
Nothing to add.
Jeff.
Nothing to add.
Greg.
I just want to, we had a meeting beforehand about the airport expansion or master plan, and I just want to say it was a fantastic process to go through, and I wanted to thank all the people that were involved in that whole process through the community, and it's worked very well.
Thank you, Greg. Dave.
Just to thank Sergeant Duchesne for being here tonight. Other than that, no comment.
Thank you. Kevin.
Nothing to add tonight.
Brent.
Nothing to add tonight.
Mr. Mayor.
The Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities and the League of Minnesota Cities is looking to gain some elected officials' signatures in order to send a note to Washington, D.C. about tax-exempt financing. And I'll read just the first paragraph. As leaders of state and municipal government, we are writing to stress the importance of maintaining the current tax exempt for municipal bonds. It has been estimated that at a combined state and local levels, we spend $3.6 trillion by the year 2020 to meet our infrastructure needs, and the importance of building and maintaining our public infrastructure has never been more apparent. Tax exempt of interest on municipal bonds was implemented more than 100 years ago at the dawn of the U.S. income tax system, and we strenuously oppose any reduction or elimination of this tax exemption. Any such change would inhibit our ability to make critical infrastructure investments. Proposals to change this commitment to tax-free municipal bonds would not only be costly for the state and local taxpayers, but also result in fewer projects, fewer jobs, and future deterioration of our infrastructure. So with that, I'll just ask for the council permission to submit my name on file for this, for the League of Minnesota Cities and the coalition.
Okay. Comments from the council?
I have no objection.
Looks good. Thank you. Chris?
I just have a few announcements. There will be a retirement party for Mary Gontarek after 42-plus years of service at the Owatonna Public Library. Mary is probably our second longest employee, and we're rolling out the red carpet for her on Friday, January 29th from 2 to 4 at the reading room of the library, and the program will start at about 2:30. So I just wanted to announce that. Also, our weekend, winter weekend out is scheduled for February 5th through the 7th. You know, there'll be on Friday a sledding and a movie at West Hills, Saturday all-day boot hockey tournament. Also, there'll be free fat bike demonstrations at Kaplan's, bonfire and ice skating. Sunday, there'll be family ice fishing at Lake Colmeyer. So a lot of fun activities that we have scheduled for that weekend out. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And with that, Chair will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Kevin Rainey to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Greg Schultz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.